My name is Dustin McFarland. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about how to set up revocable trusts. And the reason I want to talk about this is I've seen this in the news recently, a couple of different articles. One jumped out at me the other day. It was a Barron's online, like part of their blog. Barron said, or the title of it was, "It's super easy to set up a revocable trust. Here's what to know." And honestly, it's like 2 paragraphs. I'm not sure how much information. It's not here's what to know. Here's maybe 2 blurbs of what to know. But what drives me crazy is the oversimplification of doing a revocable trust. So let me start out by saying that the idea behind the revocable living trust is easy. And you can state it in one sentence. You can say, when I die, I want my money to go to my spouse. Or maybe when I die, I want my money to go to my children. So really simple in that kind of oversimplified version of what I want. Now, actually making that happen is a little more difficult. Making it happen with fewer family fights, more difficult. Making it happen with reduced income taxes, with asset or creditor protection, without wasting assets, without ruining. Every time we add a complexity to it, add another facet, it becomes more difficult. What if your children are minors? More difficult. What if they're special needs? What if they're on public assistance? More difficult. What if they're married to a crazy person? More difficult. So I don't know your family's situation, and only you do, but so your family might not even have any of these things today. But what we always want to plan for is not only what the facts that are in front of us, but what could happen in the future. The absolute worst is when you put together an ultra simple estate plan, essentially a one-pager that says, when I die, my money goes to my child. And the problem is that their situation can change. That child can be injured, suffer from an illness, marry a crazy person, get in financial troubles. They can become wealthy, or they can move out of the country. They can pass away. They could have a special needs child of their own. All of these things, and actually more, happen between the time we do our trust and the time we pass away. So, it's important to keep it up to date, but let's get back to the basics. It's super easy to set up a revocable trust. That's what the article said, right here. Super easy to set up a revocable trust. Here's what you need to know. So what the question is, I want to set up a trust. How do I go about it? Do I need certain forms to get started? What's important to know about the process? So the process is, if I were to answer this question, how do I go about it? So first of all, my question is, do you even need a trust? I think that's a threshold question. Somebody called me just a few days ago, and she said, Dustin, I want to do a trust. Okay, well, according to the Barron's article, it's super easy, right? Super easy. Yet she still needed some help. So I said, okay, tell me what's going on. It turns out she inherited a limited amount of money from a relative, like less than $100,000. So it was a lot for her. She was single. She was still working part-time. She was on a fixed income of Social Security, no other pensions. She really did live month to month. And she wanted to give a whole bunch of money away, and she thought she needed to do that in a trust. And I said, she didn't own a house. She didn't own a mobile home. She rented a little apartment that was on Section 8 housing, like government benefits. She didn't know. She thought she needed a trust, and she thought she was going to take some of the money that she inherited and pay me to help her put together this trust. So while, yes, I probably could have, it was totally unnecessary. And it was completely unnecessary because primarily her assets didn't justify the cost or expense of putting together a trust. And so I want you to know that you might not even need one. So I think that's a threshold question is, do you even need a trust? From there, if we determine you do need a trust, and you might ask, well, who needs a trust, Dustin? I would say the bare minimum is if you own real estate in California, not a mobile home, not a car, you own real estate. And then I don't care if there's a mortgage on it. It could be mortgaged to the hilt. If you own real estate in California, you should have a trust. That's a pretty general, across the board, works almost every time rule. There are some exceptions to it, but we don't have to deal with that. If you own real estate in California, then you should probably have a trust. And so are there specific forms you should get? Please no. Don't just go buy forms, fill in the blank forms. And let me tell you why I don't want you to just go out and buy fill in the blank forms. It's because they're untested. I want you to think of your revocable living trust like you are wearing a flak jacket, a bulletproof vest, and you're going to go out into a hostile environment. You're going to go into the middle of Afghanistan. You don't want to be wearing a thin tin can bulletproof vest, which I guess that wouldn't be bulletproof, right? Untested, not strengthened or reinforced, just the thinnest amount of protection possible. Like it might work if there's a windstorm or rain, but to keep you safe, you want something that is battle tested, that they've tested in labs, that they've tested on the battlefield, that they've made improvements on over the years and decades they've been working on to keep the soldiers alive. That's what I would want. I would want something that has a history of battle tested. I don't want to be wearing the first version of something, and especially when it's paper thin, literally paper thin. You just don't want that. So this article says, oh, just go to LegalZoom or what's the other where they also recommend? Oh, Nolo or LegalZoom. You can actually just go to the office supply store, and for like $40, you could buy a CD that has your trust on it. The problem is that these documents they're not tinkered with, they're not reinforced, they're not battle tested by attorneys. And so the documents that most attorneys put together for you, the attorney is not just looking at one thing. The attorney is really asking the question, if this gets contested and thrown into a courtroom, will it be upheld? Will it be upheld against, big machine guns and tank artillery and, over bombs falling from the sky? Like, is it going to hold up to the attack that's going to come if this thing goes into a courtroom and is attacked by beneficiaries or creditors or whomever? Can it withstand the barrage of bullets and bombs that could potentially come? That's the kind of trust you want. So going to Nolo or going to LegalZoom, that's fine. Like, it's better than not having it. But really, the reason you go to an attorney is that the forms are better. And the attorney is looking out for you and your family and should be offering advice, and so that when you should just ask, well, what if this is contested? Why is this better than a normal trust? Why is this better than the free version on the internet? And we can go through chapter and verse and show you this is better because, and this is better because, and this is better for tax reasons, and this is better to manage things if you become incapacitated, and this makes it easy to remove a trustee if the trustee doesn't do his or her job correctly, and this is to take care of beneficiaries, and this is if a beneficiary gets injured, and this is if a beneficiary dies, and on and on and on. There's a lot going on in your family, and you don't just go and get the cheapest thing you can possibly get. And so that's a misconception. I think it's unfair. In fact, it's not truthful to say super easy. If it were super easy, then you wouldn't even need, you wouldn't need an attorney to do it. It would literally be, a 10-year-old just pulls out a piece of paper and puts a trust together. That would be super easy. But we're not drawing stick figures here. This is something we're taking your life's energy and work and all that you've accumulated for your whole life, and we're setting up a plan to distribute that to the people who mean the most to you in the world. Normally that's spouses and children, grandchildren. If you have someone else, great. If you have a charity, great. But still you have spent your whole life, 8, 10, 12 hours a day or more, 5, 6, 7 days a week for how long? 50 years? And then you've saved and you've accumulated and you've saved and you've accumulated. And then and then you want to provide for the people who mean the most to you. I can't believe people are willing to risk that to a thin tin can instead of a real bulletproof vest. If not a tank or some sort of other, reinforced vehicle that can just withstand anything that you throw at it. I mean, to me, if I think I'm going to be in the middle of battle, obviously we'd rather never even be there. But if we're going to be, we want to be in the best position possible to withstand the biggest attack that we can anticipate someone would throw at us. And that is not from a tin can trust that we get on the internet. And it's not something that you do it yourself. I mean, I can't think of anything that I do myself, I guess I know how to plumb and maybe do a little carpentry, and I can change a tire, and I can, there's some things I know how to do. I can't do anything better than a professional who does it 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week for years and years and years and years and years. They're going to be better than me. They're going to know what problems to look out for and how to fix those problems. They're going to anticipate problems that I didn't even know could exist. They're going to say things like, you want to do this because if there's ever heavy snow, heavy rain, heavy winds, we reinforce the walls this way. They're just it doesn't matter whether it's construction or I don't care what profession you're in. If you're in a profession that you do the same job over and over and over again for decades, you're going to be better at it. So this article, super easy, revocable trust, here's what to know. It's not super easy. That's what to know. And the other thing you want to make sure of is that you're not just finding somebody who is going to download free stuff and give it to you. You want to make sure that they're going to spend time with you and educate you and ask you questions, give you an opportunity to learn. This is great. This is the next one. However, I'm reading this from the article, an estate planning attorney can help you ensure that the trust is properly funded. Now, that is true in theory. The estate planning attorney should make sure so that the assets are funded means that we have to connect the assets to the trust. We have to link them together. Without doing that, your trust is just a piece of paper. In fact, probably 50 pieces of paper. I guess it's illegal to use paper to start fires anymore. What do we use paper for now? Like my wife shreds it and uses it for notepads. Cuts it up and whatever. If without funding your trust is nothing more than a stack of paper with no value. It doesn't do anything. Funding your trust is the number one thing that needs to be done after you sign your trust. And it is the most important thing. In fact, without doing it, your trust has no value. And so while this article says the estate planning attorney can help you, there's hardly any that do. They will give you they might sit down with you and say, "Oh, thank you, Mrs. Smith, for doing your trust with us. We're so grateful. Now, here's a piece of paper. Go to the bank and make this happen. Here's a piece of paper, Mr. Jones. Go to your investment advisor and just tell them what to do." And let me tell you, that rarely works. Having done this now 12 years, having worked with thousands and thousands of clients just like you, that rarely works. And that's why I want you to demand that your estate planning attorney or someone from that office go with you to the bank and connect that account to the trust. And it's called fund it, but that's what you're doing. You're linking or connecting your accounts to your trust. And then you go to your investment advisor and you connect your accounts to your trust. And then you go to your home insurance and you make sure that your home is named the additional insured. And you make sure, then you go to the county and you connect all of the real estate to the trust. And you make sure that every single asset, whether it's a bank account, an investment account, an insurance policy, or a piece of real estate, is connected to your trust. That is the most important thing. So that is the thing that LegalZoom and NOLO cannot and will not do. Impossible. And honestly, in my firm, I saw that no other firms did that, and it was when people die, that's where we have problems. We don't have problems if assets are connected to the trust. We have problems with assets that are outside or not connected to the trust, that are not funded is the technical term to the trust. That's the problem. And so this Barron's article, have an estate planning attorney or an estate planning attorney can help you ensure that the trust is properly funded. Well, make sure they do it. Hold their feet to the fire. And then the author correctly says, if you don't transfer assets to the trust before your death, those assets may be subject to probate. That is true. And yet we start off with, this is super easy. If it's so easy, why is something like this missed? And the reason it's missed is because it's not super easy.
But the hardest part is getting him in the country.
Well, that's what the article says. I don't know. Maybe his office is hidden. Our office is not hidden. Our office is on the main drag of a busy street in a very common, populated suburban area. The article says the hardest part is getting you in the conference room. I think that just means that most people don't want to do this. They don't like talking about death, and they don't want to face their own mortality. And so they go 50, 60, 70 years knowing they need to do it. And then it's just hard to work up the courage to get into the conference room and get that done. In fact, what's ridiculous about that statement that the author wrote, he said the hardest part is getting them into the conference room. And then he said, it's super easy once you get there because you know what you want to do. I want everything to go to my 3 kids. How easy is that? Close quote. So do you know what you want? Overarching the big picture, I want my money to go to my kids. Yeah, but there are so many options and features and decisions that you can make that will benefit you or your children for decades to come. That it's just too risky to make it this simple. And it's too risky to ignore all of these other features that you can put into your trust. It's just too risky for your life's work, for everything that you have. I mean, what is that worth? If your whole world burned to the ground, right? Your houses were gone, the money was gone, the cars were gone, how much would it cost to replace everything? I mean, I'm guessing a lot. And what boggles my mind is that I argue with folks every single day when they say, well, I don't want to spend X. Doesn't even matter the price. No matter what price I give them, I always run into people who want to spend less. I appreciate you not wanting to spend a lot of, what you consider to be a lot of money. I appreciate you always wanting to pay less than whatever the going rate is. But maybe we're asking the wrong question. We shouldn't be asking how much does it cost. We should be asking how much is this going to save me? When you talk to tax planning clients and you realize that your tax planning is going to easily save their family, maybe their 2 children, $500,000 in capital gains tax. We're dealing with a new client right now that we're looking to, because of the changes we're making, we're going to be able to save the two children easily $2 million in capital gains tax. Like, without even thinking about it, that's what it'll save those kids after their mom dies. And they're asking me, well, how much is that going to cost? And I'm almost dumbfounded. I don't even know how to answer the question. How much is it going to cost? I'll tell you what, it's going to cost you less than $2 million. I mean, but let me, just for fun, if you were to give me $1 million and I gave you $2 million, would that be better? Would you be in a better place or a worse place? I mean, you're still better off. Like, I'm not charging $1 million. I'm just saying, you're asking, how much does it cost is the wrong question. Ask, what's the value? Like, how does this benefit my family? The first benefit we think of is, money, right? And we have a tough time switching our brain from cost to benefit. And we think, oh, what's this going to cost me? This is a cost, this is an expense, this is a burden on my family. When really what we're doing is we're providing opportunity for more, right? We're expanding what the family will receive. Because of a little investment today, it's going to yield, 100 or 500 fold. So a $2 million benefit, if I charge them $10,000, they would get a 200% return on that. I mean, that's a really good deal. Nowhere else can you get 200%, at least legally. So we're asking the wrong questions. Ask, how is this going to benefit my family? And then what's really difficult to put a price tag on is your own peace of mind. I can't tell you how many clients come through here every year, and I would say it's probably about 20% of our clients, maybe more. They come through here, they have a trust, and you know what? It wasn't explained to them. They didn't understand it. They wasn't thoroughly done. It was a thin tin can type of shield trying to protect them. And they paid somebody to do it, but they didn't connect with them, and that person didn't show any sort of care or concern, didn't ask any real questions about their family, didn't ask what was important to them and what their goals were and what they'd like to accomplish. And so they come in, and here's what they tell me. They say, Dustin, I just don't trust that this is done right. Was it? And my first response is, well, what did you want done? I don't know. What did you want done? And they'll say, well, I wanted to make sure that my assets went to my kids. And I said, well, is there anything else? And they'll usually come up with, well, I want to make sure nothing goes to the government. Okay, anything else? And then it's, well, I want to make sure that the money doesn't ruin my kids. And again, we're not talking about multi-millionaires here. We're talking about regular folks, people like you and me who have a house and a little bit of money in a savings account or a checking account or an investment account or a 401k. We're talking about regular folks, literally less than $1 million in cash. But they're still worried. I don't want my son to blow the money at once. I don't want my daughter to give it to her husband. I don't trust him. I don't want my grandkids to miss out. I want my grandkids to know that I love them and I didn't forget about them. And so you start to understand what people want, and then you look at the trust, and what you realize is it is completely void or silent to any of those issues. It couldn't be more basic. And what you realize is that in addition to being silent to that, you can see that whoever put it together didn't spend any time with the clients. And you know why I know that? Because the clients aren't in his office anymore. They're in my office. Whoever did it didn't put forth any sort of energy or effort to show the clients how important this really was. This isn't just a one-time transaction. This is something that we're going to revisit over and over again. We're going to have a relationship with you. We're going to get to know you and want to make sure that what you have is beneficial. This is really important. I take objection to this Barron's article. It's super easy. If you remember anything today, I want you to remember it's not super easy, but it's super important and it's super valuable. The benefit to your family will be not only in terms of dollars and cents, they'll be light years ahead, but in terms of the peace of mind that you'll get knowing that you have done everything you can to take care of your family. That's what's important. And we want to make sure that it's done and that you understand it. You have all the time in the world to ask as many questions as you want, and that we connect all those assets to the trust, most important part, and that you have the peace of mind knowing that it's done right. I don't want you to go to another attorney a year from me and say, hey, can you check my trust? I don't know that it was done right. We want you coming back to ask those questions again. We'll help you understand that it was done right. And if it's not, if you're unhappy, we'll fix it. This is too important to look back, to just say, it's super easy, just knock it out with a free document online. You've worked too hard, your kids are too important, there's just too much at risk. Don't put it all at risk. Make sure it's protected. Battle tested, safe and secure, that's what you're looking for. I'm Dustin McFarland. give me a call. Let's talk about your situation and how we can make sure your family is safe and secure.